Hey, Ray here, and today I'm bringing you an Edison format deck profile for Six Samurai Double Summon. This is a very interesting deck in a format that I also find very interesting. I think I'm going to make this a series, giving a quick rundown of Edison format decks, what they do, what they're good for, and why you should play them. Because I'd like to see Edison be more of an accessible format. I think now often what people will have to do is that you'll find new people, they'll join places like the Edison format Discord, and they'll look for deck lists, and it's not the easiest thing for a lot of people to go for. So you'll often find people building historical deck lists. I've seen this in person, where people will join Edison events in person, and they'll be using horrible, outdated deck lists, and they won't have really been taught the theory behind them. So I thought I'd try remedying that with a series that helps break down these decks, what they're good at, what they're good for, and what each card is best used for. Now, I'm not going to claim to be an expert or anything. I'm mainly here just to give you the brief rundown on what the overall goal of the deck is, and how I personally go about playing it. Now, this is an interesting variant of Six Samurai. I say variant because at the time, people did not play Six Samurai like this generally. If you look at a lot of historical deck lists, this was played as a hard control deck, where you would use cards like Gateway and United to slowly out-tempo your opponent by basically out-card advantaging them by normal summoning a Six Samurai one turn, special summoning Grandmaster if you draw into it, and then slowly gaining Bushido counters from the two most important cards in the deck, United and Gateway, in order to essentially pop off. However, in more recent times, we've realised this deck is probably more fun and better functioning as a combo deck that essentially turbos out Gateway or United and then tries to get to two summons as fast as possible so you can start drawing cards and searching and get your engine going from there. It's a very modern way to look at a deck like this, which I think is very interesting. And I also think it's very fun because it's a deck that can have extremely explosive turns. There are turns where you draw up to 6 cards in a turn, which is always fun. Hero of the deck here, Grandmaster of the Six Samurai, always run 3. If you control another Six Samurai, special summon it. If it would be destroyed, destroy another Six Samurai. Great Shogun Shien, it's supposed to be the boss monster, but because it requires 2 other face-up Six Samurai to special summon, we only run the 1, because it's relatively bricky. You already need a solid board established to summon it, and it plays really hard into cards like Torrential Tribute, which just kind of lose you the game on the spot sometimes, so we run this at 1. Hand of the Six Samurai, it's a really solid removal, it's another body on board. We run 3 because it does come up quite a bit. Like if your opponent has a monster that you cannot beat over because you do not have the Bushido counters on Gateway of the 6 to use its first effect, which boosts any Six Samurai attack, which does come up quite a bit, you can use Hand of the Six Samurai instead, and you contribute any monster, including itself. However, like all Six Samurai monsters, you cannot activate its effect unless you control another Six Samurai. Spirit of the Six Samurai is interesting. It's a union monster. You equip it to another Six Samurai, it gains 500 attack, and if it destroys a monster by battle, you draw a card. This is really good for tempo, it's really good for beating over things, and it can help, again, you can take out a monster that your opponent might have even potentially synchro summoned and obviously put towards their play towards, and then you start drawing cards while they lose one, which puts you up on card advantage and tempo, so it helps you really push through your opponent's cards. Iro is interesting. Its effect when you control another Six Samurai is to destroy a face down. This outs potentially annoying cards like Raiko, Snowman Eater, and Gravekeeper's Spy, all of which are just really annoying for decks like this to out, because what you tend to do is you have one explosive turn 1, and then you just slowly summon Six Samurais after that and hope they stay on the field. Yaichi is amazing. It cannot attack the turn its effect is activated. However, every turn you can pop a set spell or trap. And this helps us essentially, I'm going to be real, get rid of D-Prison. That is the card we are most scared of. Because we can't afford to lose too many of our Six Samurai, because then that really slows down the deck. Plus, our protection effect on Grandmaster only works for destruction, not banishing. Now, Zanji is interesting. It's the highest attack normal summonable monster, which is one of the reasons we run 3, and if it doesn't destroy something by battle that it attacked, it instead destroys it due to its effect, assuming you control another Six Samurai. Double Summon, like I said, is the card that allows us to swarm the field, which is key for triggering Gateway of the Six, which either boosts the attack of our Six Samurai, lets us search them from deck or graveyard, which is very useful because it allows us to recycle cards that otherwise might have just stayed there. And it can also special summon a Shien from the graveyard, but this basically never happens, so you don't worry about that effect. We run staple cards like Heavy Storm, Mirror Force, and Bottomless, and Trapdoor Shoot just because they are so powerful and we have the room for them, so there's no reason to not run them. Reinforcement of the army, all of our monsters are warriors, so it searches everything. Six Samurai United is Paw of Greed, assuming we can summon 2, which is what this deck's built to do. Upstart Goblin helps keep the deck consistent. Bottomless, we run 2 because, again, it's a solid staple. D-Prison, I'd probably cut this for Solemn Judgment. Honestly, I'll just do that now. This deck isn't a very trap-heavy deck because we do want to be playing pretty proactively, but the traps we do run, therefore, they just need to do a lot. We run 3 Reckless Greed. We run so many draw cards that the idea with Reckless Greed is that we essentially will draw into more draw power anyway, or we'll draw into something that gets our engine going. So the downside of Reckless Greed, of skipping our next 2 draw phases, doesn't really affect us as much. Starlight Road is just nice because we lose to mass removal. Now for the side deck, Rivalry of Warlords. All of our monsters are warriors, so there is no reason to not run this in the side deck, just in case we're up against a deck that hard loses to this, of which a lot of decks do. Mask of Restrict shuts off Monarchs, which we hard lose to. System Down, not necessarily, it depends on your meta here. If you expect to come up across a lot of machine decks, System Down is extremely powerful, but otherwise it's up to you. Soul Release is kind of a questionable choice. A lot of people prefer running DD Craw, but I do like the ability to proactively get rid of my opponent's graveyard if I think they're going to make a play with it. It's often pretty obvious from what their graveyard is what choices they can make anyway, so you'll know when to use your Soul Release. Cyber Dragon is great going second, especially against machine decks, because then we can make Chimeratech Fortress Dragon by contact fusioning monsters on their field. Consecrated Light is great. It hard beats decks like Blackwings, and we only run 2 darks in the form of Ero, so this does nothing to us essentially. And that is the deck rundown. Now let's try some test hands. Now, let me show you some test hands so you can get an idea of what this deck does. This is a very good opening hand because we have a way of summoning 2 and a Gateway and a United, which means we will get great benefits off the summons. So obviously the first thing we do is Upstart Goblin, because the card we draw off Upstart could potentially influence what we want to do here. And, there's no reason to not fire Upstart off first. That's what you always want to do generally. So let's Gateway and United. Then we normal summon Spirit. This puts 2 Bushido counters on Gateway of the Six and 1 on United. Then we can special summon Grandmaster in attack. This puts 2 more counters on Gateway of the Six and 1 counter on United. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to simply remove 2 count. Now, thing is with Great Shogun Shien, he does not add counters because Gateway and Six Samurai United specifically say it must be a Six Samurai that is summoned to activate them. So we're just going to send Six Samurai United to the grave with 2 counters on it, which lets us draw 2 cards. That's an interesting draw there. Another Gateway. We probably won't want to throw this down immediately because the rest of our hand doesn't really facilitate it. Honestly, I'd have to debate throwing down the Shien here. It depends if we're going first or second. If our opponent has Scary back row, I guess we might consider not doing it, but at the same time, we have Spirit, so we can equip this to Grandmaster. See, this is where you have to start thinking about the lines of play. So if we were overextending, let's just say go all out. We special summon Shien. We set the Reckless Greed, hope to draw into 2 monsters, and then we would end our turn. So next turn, let's say we draw. That's not a good draw. I would genuinely not want to Reckless here, but that's what this deck does, so I'd do it anyway. Alright, let's send the Upstart to the graveyard. What do we draw? Well, that's a hand. Well, as you can see, this deck is very good at just flooding the field with a lot of cards and on turn one, and also filling up your hand with even more cards so that you can continue to make plays from there. This deck does feel like a gamble at a lot of times, like I just demonstrated there. If you don't draw what you want off Reckless or other cards, it can sometimes just lose. But let's try another hand. All right, let's draw for turn. We do not want to see 2 Rec. Okay. This is a time when we do the good old... it's arguable here. Because we could do United, sending 1 United to use it, 1 Bushido counter to use it as an upstart goblin, but we really wouldn't want to do that, I think. I think we just set Reckless here. We would pass, we drop, and then... Okay. See, now here we have to question, do we want to get really greedy? Because you can set the Reckless Greed and then, like, just draw 4 cards, but that loses you a turn because we wouldn't be doing anything this turn. Also, we probably would have, we 100% would have set this Dust Shoot if it was turn 1. What would we draw for the first Reckless? Oh, Upstart. Oh, yeah, this gives us players, because then we can go United, summon 2 off double summon, draw 2 cards. That's what I mean about once you get your engine going. Greed can really get things going. Sometimes it feels bad to activate Greed because obviously the downside seems really bad, but the more you play this deck, the more you realize, man, it's just a really good card. All right. Oh, yeah, this is a fine hand. United. Double summon. Get 2 Bushido counters on United, send it to the grave, draw 2 cards. Oh, and we get... See, I wouldn't consider holding it off. I would rather hold it off for the Reckless Greed to see if we draw into another one of our spells. So let's see what would happen next turn, potentially. Oh, God, we drew another Reckless. Why not? Screw it, let's just draw. And we drew an Extender! There we go, we win the game, basically. Because now we get Special Summon, Normal Summon, get 4 Bushido counters, and... Yes, this is a deck that has the potential to snowball, as you can probably see. I always have fun playing this deck, I'm going to be real, because there are a few decks in the format that can just draw like this can. Alright, draw off the Upstart. This is not the best hand, but we have a lot of back row, which can potentially offset it. As long as the Yaichi survives the turn here, we would essentially get to go off with our United. Now, United immediately says to our opponent, please get rid of me, which would probably bear out a turn 1 heavy stun. But then again, if they have MST, we just cry. Which, hey, sometimes Edison's like that. Let's go again. Now let's draw for turn. Again, I can never really complain about United. No need to waste the double summon here. Just normal and special, and then send United to grave to draw 2 cards. That's why I said we hold off the double summon, because next turn I'd say we would activate Gateway and then, yeah, go off. So hopefully that should have demonstrated what this deck does. Summons twice and then just tries to draw a bunch of cards. It's not the most... I don't know, how would I put it? I don't want to say it's not the most complex deck, because there are a lot of ways to misplay. Believe me, I'd know. But hopefully I've showed you the kind of high-pace, explosive turn 1 type gameplay that you get out of 6 Samurai combo. And second of all, thanks for watching. If this video gets a positive reception, I might do more of these. Who knows, I might even do deck testing as well as just showing the deck and showing what it does. Because obviously it's all great me sitting here and saying, oh, look at what 6 Samurai does turn 1. But then you're playing against an actual person, and then they torrential you on your second summon. And then your 2 cards you get off United don't feel as good anymore. But that's something that I feel like I need to show to you so you guys can get, the full story of how decks play. Because Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a 2-player game. There's a lot of interaction. And the way you play might change if you're playing around certain back row. That's a key part of Edison format, is knowing what your opponent might have and playing around it appropriately. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later.